What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back. And folks, I am bringing you today one of the most insane auction recaps we have ever done on this channel. We'll be reviewing today tons of Black Label card sales, tons of high-end sealed product, tons of high-end trophy cards, including a Pikachu Illustrator card. We saw another PSA 10 First Edition base set Charizard. So much to go over. I hope you got some time to spare, because today is going to be a long episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. A big thank you to today's auction recap sponsor. It is KantoShark.com, the ultimate Pokemon card marketplace. KantoShark.com marketplace currently has this beautiful array of amazing Pokemon cards for sale. And as you can see, you can even make offers on every single one of these cards. Not only that, but they have super fast shipping and payment plans available as well. And you have options to sell your cards through them also. So after this recap, you have to go over to KantoShark.com, see what they have available for you today. Alright folks, we have a lot to go over, believe me, and we're going to do a lot of market talk as well. Let's get started off with this BGS 10 Black Label Charizard V Black Star promo from the Champions Path Elite Trainer Box. One of the most graded cards of all time. Sold this week as a Black Label for $532. We also saw a Black Label Rainbow Rare Charizard V-Star from Brilliant Stars that sold for $2,325. Here is a 25th Anniversary Japanese Umbreon Gold Star, also a Black Label, sold for $781. And then check this out, folks. We saw this PSA 10 Scream Pikachu promo card sell for $2,550. But then we also saw this BGS 10 Black Label copy of this card sell for $12,100. Woo, man, we're what, 5 cards into this auction recap, and we're coming out firing, folks, with a Black Label Scream Pikachu. Now, is this a new record price for this card? No, it is not, as we saw a sale of this card before for around $15,000, but still, man, $12,100, not too bad for a card of this caliber. How's the Moonbreon doing? It's still doing very well. A PSA 10 copy of this card sold this week for about $1,600, while a BGS 10 Pristine example sold for about $2,225. And then we saw a couple other very notable alt art cards. Here's a Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike, sold this week for $810. The Giratina V from Lost Origins, still doing well, selling for $965 as a PSA 10. Here we have the Full Art Lily from Ultra Prism. Had 2 sales as a PSA 10, one for $1,136, another sale for $990. And about a year ago, folks, almost a year ago, this card was selling for over $2,000. Back then, I mean, we had some really hyped up Full Art Trainer cards and Japanese cards. So it's pretty much been cut in half over the year, but it's still a pretty pricey card, right? On to some vintage cards. Here we have a base set First Edition Red Cheeks Pikachu that sold as a PSA 10 for $4,050 this week. Here is a First Edition Dragonite Holo from Fossil, sold as a PSA 10 for $4,473. Here's a First Edition Dark Charizard that sold for $3,400, along with this First Edition Dark Dragonite that sold for $2,375. Here from Gym Challenge was this First Edition Giovanni's Persian, very tough card to grade, sold as a PSA 10 for $3,056 this week. From Legendary Collection, we saw the Reverse Holo Venusaur sell for $1,747. Getting into some Shining cards from Neo Destiny, here's a Shining Celebi. This is the unlimited copy, sold for $620, while a First Edition example sold for $1,625. Here is a CGC 10 Gem Mint First Edition Shining Charizard that sold for $5,602. And then we saw a First Edition PSA 10 Shining Gyarados sell for $6,300. Here from EX Deoxys was the CGC 9 Gold Star Rayquaza that sold for $7,891. Along with this Gold Star Vaporeon that sold for $3,550. Couple pieces of sealed product on eBay. Here is a Legendary Collection blister pack featuring the Legendary Bird art, sold for $1,845, while this blister pack featuring the Big 3 on it sold for $2,125. Here we have a Team Up booster box that sold for $2,325. And then we saw this very loosely wrapped Team Rocket booster box. I do believe this is an unlimited box. Sold for $6,288. And then here we saw an unlimited Italian base set booster box that sold for $9,400. And don't worry folks, there are plenty more base set booster box sales to come. Stay tuned. Here on PWCC's weekly auction block was this first edition Dark Raichu, the very first secret rare card, back when secret rare actually mattered. Sold as a PSA 10 for $1,440. Here is a reverse holo Gardevoir from Black and White Next Destinies. A Pop 1 card that sold as a PSA 10 for $2,100. Up next, we saw two Charizard holos from Expedition, graded a CGC 10. This one here sold for $2,280, while this other one sold for an even $3K. Here we have a Shadowless base set Venusaur as a PSA 10 sell for $3,360, along with this Shadowless Blastoise that sold for $6,300. Here is a CGC 10 first edition Mewtwo from base set that sold for $4,560, along with this Japanese promo Raichu Daisuke Club 5,200 point promo card that sold as a PSA 10 for $4,920. Here we have a BGS 8.5 University Magikarp that sold for an even $9,000. And then finally, for their weekly auction block, we saw this 2012 Japanese Black and White promo Rayquaza card that sold for $11,700 as a PSA 10. And then we saw several high-end sales on their monthly premiere auction. Here we have a CGC 10 Japanese Sun and Moon promo. This is the Champions League Victory Decoration card. Sold for $10,950. Here we have the Illusion Zoroark contest winner card as a PSA 10 that sold for $12,000. Here is a CGC 10 2009 Japanese Poke Card Design contest winner card featuring the Arceus. Looks like it's surfing. Sold for $15,600. And then here we have a PSA 10 8,600 point Daisuke Club Master Scroll card that sold for $17,400. And then folks, very interesting, this is a BGS 10 Black Label Sun and Moon Master Battle Set Alola Friends. This card was all the talk about a year ago, selling as a PSA 10 for over $11,000. This week, a Black Label copy of this card sold for $13,200. So this is a Pop 4 card as a Black Label, just an FYI. Here we have a CGC 9 Japanese Tropical Mega Battle Lucky Stadium card that sold for $17,700. And then we saw two of these Tropical Wind Mega Battle promo cards. This one is a CGC 8, sold for $7,200, while a PSA 10 knocked it out of the park, selling for $37,200. And the same thing with this Japanese Tropical Mega Battle prize bilingual executor card. A CGC 8 copy sold for $9,900, while a PSA 10 copy sold for $87,000. Here we have the big three from the Triple Get campaign. You got the Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard. These Japanese cards, all as a Black Label copies, sold for $37,200 this week. And then here we have a BGS 9.5 Techno Charizard card from the Topps Chrome series. The Techno variants are the most valuable from Topps Chrome. This card sold for $10,800. And then here we have a lot of 87 of the first edition base set cards. These are all the non-holos featuring the Red Cheeks Pikachu, the Rainbow Arrow Dragonair. This lot sold for a total of $32,100. And then we saw the complete first edition base set Korean cards. So all 102 cards sold for $38,400. Not a lot you see come by very often, folks. Woo, this is a lot of dollar signs. Up next, we have a PSA 10 first edition base set Blastoise, sold for $19,800. We have a Shadowless base set Charizard as a PSA 10, sold for $51,600, while the first edition copy sold for $174,000 this week, which is, I think, the same price it sold for last week on Golden Auctions. So it seems to be staying at around $174,000. Here we have the 2009 Japanese Scramble Eevee card as a PSA 10 sold for $48,000. This is a Pop 5 card as a PSA 10. Here we have the Japanese Tropical Mega Battle prize number 2 trainer card that sold for $44,400, along with this Japanese promo Lizardon Mega Battle Kobe number 3 trainer card. Whew. It was authenticated by PSA and sold for $90,000. And then to finish off the recap, we saw several unbelievable auctions from Heritage. Here is a first edition Shining Magikarp in PSA 10 from Neo Revelation, sold this week for $3,250. Here is a CGC 10 pristine first edition Umbreon from Neo Discovery that sold for $7,500. Here is a PSA 10 reverse holo Charizard from Legendary Collection that sold for $15,000 this week, along with this 10 million units sold phone card as a BGS 10 pristine sold for $5,000. And then we saw several uncut Pokemon card sheets. Here are the most notable ones. This is a Topps Chrome Series 1 uncut test sheet that sold for $8,125. Here we have the Unlimited Fossil Holo sheet, uncut, sold for $8,750. Here's an uncut sheet from Unlimited Team Rocket set that sold for $9,375. Here's an uncut sheet of the Unlimited Holos in Kangaskhan and Vaporeon. These are no doubt for the theme decks because those 2 cards came in the Jungle theme decks. This sheet sold for $11,250. And then we saw a sheet of the Unlimited base set cards sell for an even $15,000 this week. On to some very expensive sealed product. Here we have a Trainer Deck B, otherwise known as Misty's deck, that sold for $5,125, while this Trainer Deck A, or Brock's deck, sold for $10,188. Here we have a first edition Gym Heroes booster box that sold for $11,875. We have this Japanese Neo Discovery booster box, or Crossing the Ruins sealed box, that sold for $13,750, along with the first edition Neo Discovery English booster box that sold for $16,875. Here's a Japanese Neo Genesis box that sold for $17,500, while the first edition box sold for $23,750. Here is a Japanese base set booster box that sold for $28,750. A Chinese Unlimited base set box sold for $11,562, while a first edition Chinese base set box sold for $23,750. Here is a base set Unlimited booster box that sold for an even $15,000, while the first edition base set booster box sold this week for $237,500. And then we're going to finish off this amazing recap with 3 extremely rare, extremely valuable Japanese cards. Here is a unnumbered Squirtle promo from the Pokemon Stadium Best Photo Contest winners. Graded a CGC 9, sold this week for $68,750, while this CGC 9 Charmander sold for $75,000. And if you don't know, these were unnumbered promos given out to the winners who took these pictures. Very limited copies were given to the winners, so they are very, very tough to get your hands on, to say the least. Which brings me to the final auction of this week's recap. It is the CGC 8 Pikachu Illustrator promo card that sold for $204,000. Ooh, man, you know how you get the meat sweats? I got the money sweats just going over some of these auctions. Absolutely insane amount of money flowing through Pokemon cards. What do you think of this recap? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to go check out KantoShark.com. I would really, really appreciate it. That's all I got for you today, folks. Thank you for sticking around to the very end. I'll catch you in my next one.